BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host here at BodyBags. It is the end of the month, which means it is a theme week. It is Asian Ghost Flicks. Compliments of Glenn, our Monday reviewer. So it's Asian ghost films all week long, which ought to be pretty interesting. So the film that I got for you, and you'll notice I have a black screen. My TV has decided to begin to crash. And so that's got to be remedied, but so that's why you don't see a menu screen. Face from one Song-gon. First feature-length film other than shorts. From 2004, an Asian ghost flick for sure. One that sort of reminded me of the Changeling, however you say that, the George C. Scott film, that excellent ghost. It reminded me of that in a way, not near as good. And I don't usually talk down on South Korean films because, man, they usually are head and shoulders above, at least these days, a lot of their American counterparts. You know, you just think of Train to Busan and just, I mean, even Peninsula, the follow-up, and just Host and I Knew the Devil, is that what it is? It just so many. I mean, like Asian film in general is pretty outstanding, but this one I felt like it was a little generic. Watched it last night, and I kind of had a hard time. But I'll say about 3/4 of the way in, it does sort of pick up pace in a way, and it allows for a certain reveal that, although it's not, I won't say you don't see it coming, it's executed fairly well in terms of the lead up to the review. There might have been a few hints, but quite frankly, I was tired enough watching that I wasn't really picking up on things. And so there's one scene in particular that involves a flower shop. I think that's when it's like the bulb went off or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But anyways, what you basically have here is sort of a conspiracy-ridden ghost haunting. You got a guy who is into reconstructing faces, but he is having to take a step back from his work. And of course, untimely, because there is a murderer or murderers, I don't know, there's a conspiracy here, but bodies are turning up and they have been completely acid washed, man. So everything has just been melted away. And I'll say, man, there's one corny line where I think the investigators, or maybe I think it was a journalist or so, makes the point of saying, maybe they used acid in order to hide what was wrong with the bodies. I don't know. It was just like, it just sort of hit me. I laughed out loud. And I just thought, gee, you wonder. But anyways, from the back, a serial killer is burning away the flesh of his victims with acid, leaving only the bones behind. The police turned to Hyeon, a former forensic sculptor adept at reconstructing faces by examining and interpreting the skulls. I'll just stop it there. It's not a terrible synopsis for the back here of this Tartan Asia Extreme release, which it's anything but extreme. This is a really, and you know, it's understandable listening to the director talk in the interview that's on the disc. He didn't want the haunting apparition ghost. He didn't want them to be gory or frightening or, you know, hard horror. He wanted the role of the ghost, like, and that's why I say the Changeling with George C. Scott. That's how you say it. I probably said it wrong, but it reminded me of that. You know, it's cause sort of, I'll say generic. There's something working under the surface though, and it didn't hit me what it was until the very end of the director's interview, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute. But he, of course, because his daughter's recently had heart surgery, and she just can't see, it's not settling. And there's something, he begins to pick up on the fact that maybe there's something wrong with the heart in question. And this sort of leads, you know, sort of along the ways of investigators, you know, finding clues wherever they can find who's been basically killing these people and basically using acid to disintegrate as much of the body as possible, thus, obscuring identification when bodies are found. And so as a result of his daughter, though, and her sickness, he pulls back right at the wrong time when the place he works for needs him heavily involved because they need to break this case. And so he ultimately is forced back in, albeit by unorthodox means. It opens sort of cliche-like, and then by the end, looking back, thinking on it, that actually was a really kind of neat part of the movie, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, so he is sort of forced back in, a la, just think Manhunter, right? Sort of pulled back in to reconstruct this skull so they can get an image likeness, and so it can help with the investigation. And he's got help along the way with a girl that it just seems like there's a romantic relationship there waiting to happen, just waiting. And actually the two work together really pretty good. But ultimately, because of his daughter's sickness, or her inability to just get along with his heart, he starts to play he kind of starts to play investigator himself. Not nowhere near Argento Deep Red level, but he does start to kind of pick up clues here and there, and by the end he actually follows up an instinct in his gut, and part of it is it's his daughter's being haunted by apparitions who seem almost grudge-like or ring-like, and you kind of get this sense that maybe they're trying to poke and prod in order to get some sort of help, that something needs to be revealed or more people are going to continue to die. And so, even Hyun Min, who is our main protagonist, he starts to be, slowly but surely, he starts to be haunted by apparitional, things. And eventually, I don't know, there's not that Red Dragon, there's not that Manhunter moment where that light bulb suddenly just boom for both the protagonist and for you, and you're both going, yeah, there's nothing like that, but he slowly starts to kind of like, I think I might know what's going on here, maybe, and sort of it heads towards I'd say it's a pretty nifty little resolution. It's not, in the end, it's not bad. But what is really interesting about the director, the director's interview, is right at the very end of the interview. So I think the interviewer asks a question, and part of his reply is, in terms of the reconstructing of faces, the art of, they were sort of, I think, influenced by a real case. And I went and did, because all he said was the name of the case, and then boom, the interview was done. It was like, I'm like, I want to know more about this. So I went and did a little search. It is the Frog Boys. He does mention that. The Frog Boys incident. Back in March 26, 91 in South Korea, there were 5 boys, should have been 6, but one sort of bailed for various reasons. So 5 would go out looking for, of all things, salamander eggs, probably not an uncurious type of hobby for young boys in South Korea, I would imagine. But anyways, they go missing. It's not until 2002 their remains are found. It was one of the great national tragedies of the moment. In fact, they end up getting like more than 300,000 police out, military. They scour certain whole sections of area. And it's not till 2002 when their remains are found, and 2 of the boys, I think, it was obvious that there was head skull trauma, blunt force, perhaps maybe a farm tool implement. The running theory is that maybe they ran into someone who just lost their mind and just killed all 5 boys. But the mysterious thing is the location of where they were found on the upslope of a mountainside had been covered more than 500 times. It kind of reminds you of a case that the Astonishing Legends podcast, if I think about it, I'll drop the link down there. The link is on my X-File episode, though, if I forget to drop the link down there. If you watch my latest X-File episode, the link for Astonishing Legends podcast, which is sort of the, just a paranormal, a lot of interesting things that they do. Anyways, and so so I think the blunt head, there's a specific scene in the movie, and just the reconstruction of faces, I think was heavily influenced. I almost kind of wish that this movie would have been about that case. I think you could have done something really moving. This was his first feature film, though, and I don't know if he would have been quite adept to handling material that was, I'm sure today it still seemed sensitive. But I would love to see this into a movie, because there is a real mystery there that still has yet to this day been solved, and it needs to be solved. But you kind of get the, you think about that real life case, but you think about this movie, and so, the ghosts the spirits of those who have been their lives taken from them for a reason, I'll just leave hidden. You really do need to see it. I don't want to reveal it on this one, just in case you want to see it. It's not a bad movie at all, period. And if you're into the Tartan Asia Extreme line, or just into Asian films in general, and you've never seen this one, well, I mean, you got to get to it at some point. You got to check it out. I'll say Hyeon, the protagonist, is really, really good in this as a lead protagonist. And from what I'm understanding, he is a seasoned actor, or was when he did this role. So this film needed that. The girl who plays his daughter is pretty awesome too. So yeah, I don't want to go much further than that. It was interesting. The story that perhaps influenced it is really fascinating. The movie itself, again, it has a sort of passive quality to it. It's almost like, again, like the Changeling, but not as executed as well, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, here at Asian Ghost Flicks, man, I had to get to this at some point. It's been sitting on my shelf forever, and I'm glad I did. Interesting film. So check out the rest of the reviews throughout the rest of the week as other Asian Ghost Flicks drop throughout. And then, man, we're into July. And first up for me in July is actually a film Eli Roth is in, called Aftershock. So there you go, Glenn. If you decide to watch this review, no, Aftershock is next, right? With that, enjoy the week and enjoy your summer. And thank you for just the subs, the comments, the likes. It all helps, man. BodyBags has been around for 8 years. And I think we just hit the 2,000 sub. It helps, man. And me and Calx were talking about this the other day. It would be nice to think that 10, 15, 20 years from now, there's a whole new crew in here still carrying this on, like a bad or a good horror film. I hope and pray this channel never dies, even long past our contribution, which at the moment we got a pretty dang good solid crew, if I don't say so myself. But I will say so. It is freaking good. Anyways, with all that, we leave with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to